Hello, welcome to Time to Talk, a show where we simply sit down and talk about whatever comes up. In this episode, we talk to a friend who is navigating the everyday challenges of life and appears willing to grow through them. How's your day?
My day is pretty crazy, actually. My days are usually pretty crazy. I'm usually pretty booked. Today, however, it's crazy for a different reason. My car was breaking down, so I had to go have horrible credit, multiple repossessions. My wife has multiple repossessions. So we've been struggling for the past 3 weeks to find someone that will loan to us. So we finally found someone and went and picked up a car today. Yeah, so that's kind of exciting, but I'm pretty nervous about because dude, it's like $600 a month. And yeah, so.
It can be intimidating.
Yeah, but it's also I'd rather pay $600 a month than potentially catch on fire.
Yeah.
At some point, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, the that I was driving was just not safe. There was a mechanical issue with the couple of sensors that have been known to overload the electrical and cause fires.
Yeah.
So
you ended up with a different vehicle, and it got some reactions as you pulled in. How does that feel?
I don't know. I mean, it's cool, I guess, but I'm not I'm just living. I'm just doing my thing. You know what I mean? I'm kind of doing what I have to do.
Yeah.
To survive at this point. So I don't know if people applaud that, then that's cool.
You said something interesting. If I may ask some questions and delve into,
Sure, for sure.
And it's a very prevalent point. Prevalent. It's. I'm doing what I have to do to survive. And survival looks different to different people who are in different scenarios, right? So what does that look like to you? I'm doing what I got to do to survive. What does that look like? Talk about. Would you mind talking about survival a little bit?
Yeah. So, when I was using, survival meant a completely different thing than it does now. It was survival then was just get what I need at all costs, at any cost. You know what I mean? And if it was if anyone was between me and my next use, that was it had to go. It had to get the fuck away from me. But now it's we got a baby on the way. So survival to me is keeping the lights on, keeping food on the stove, you know what I mean? Keeping heat coming out of the ducts. Because if that stuff isn't happening, then how's the baby going to survive? You know what I mean? If I'm driving a car that's potentially going to burst into flames at some point between here and Mansfield, how is the baby going to survive that? You know? So when I say survival, I'm not just thinking of myself. I'm thinking of, those people that are important to me, important in my immediate family or in my immediate life. My wife, our baby to be, my other kids, It's not just about me, which is crazy, absolutely crazy.
So it sounds like I'm hearing a little bit more about providing as well.
Yeah.
Survival and providing, which is a neat transition that I believe takes place as at least in my experience, most of my life I was very selfish and spent, just scraping, grabbing, hiding, taking what I could for me without any, and if somebody else got the drippings from that, then, whatever. As long as it wasn't too much, right? As long as they're not taking from me. But now in this mode of providing, and what that looks like, and how that grows. And I remember as my first set of children was on the way, and I would go into a mode of providing, and it was very scary for me, because I spent a lot of time. I got different vehicles. There was car seats and feeding chairs and diaper pails and all the things that go along with that, and ensuring comfort as well, because providing there are the bare necessities, and what do we think those are? There's shelter and food and and then there's the necessities, or I'm sorry, the comfort items like diaper pails and no tear bath wash and stuff like that. Something I forgot about that I didn't realize for several years after that experience was that while those are very important for life, I had forgotten to provide love. I truly did. It wasn't even a blip on my radar. As my family began to grow, and it's going to sound weird unless I go ahead and say it, I had children that passed away. And so that was a very dark downward spiral time. But when I had a child that survived and began to live and grow, I never thought to provide love. That was a very interesting growth spot.
It's funny that you say that, because I actually have been kind of realizing something similar that I've never realized in the past. And it's I mean, not about like my children, but my wife and I, we're both so busy with our jobs that it's kind of like we're no longer like a couple sometimes. It's like we're roommates. And I've been trying to figure out where that transition started and ended. Because like, why am I not realizing it until now? But like looking back, I'm seeing like all these different things that have happened where I'm like, those are things that like roommates do. You know what I mean? Like it's I don't know, it's very strange. But so I've been kind of like on this mission lately to choose romance rather than choosing my phone or my video game or whatever. I'm choosing romance. And that's been very like eye-opening to me. I feel like I've been neglecting not only my wife, but like other areas of my life where I'm not choosing the individual. You know what I mean? Like whoever it is that I'm with, whether it's a peer, whether it's you, whether something like that, like I never really stay present. I'm always like going somewhere else. And I have been trying to been trying to stay mindful and stay invested into what I'm doing rather than sitting here thinking about whatever, something that I have to do tomorrow, something that does not matter at this moment. So yeah, like I understand what you're saying where you're talking about providing love. I'm choosing romance or love or whatever it is you want to call it, just to be closer to my wife, which is important to me. So.
A partnership.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than a roommate-ship.
Yeah, because that gets weird,
Indeed.
especially when you're like having sex with your roommate.
Well, I mean, some people might applaud that. I don't know. I really like where you brought mindfulness into this. Are there some practices that you do to remember mindfulness, to practice mindfulness?
No, but I am open to suggestions. I mean,
Let's talk about mindfulness.
Yeah.
And because and you brought up not being in the present, and that was huge in my life. I lived everywhere except now.
yeah,
Maybe we can touch on both.
for sure.
So a couple of things that I do. It was shared from a friend. Is I have a talisman, a medallion, a coin that is meaningful to me. and it was presented to me to put it in my shoe. And so it clacks around in my shoe, and it's ever present. It's
Currently there.
it's currently there.
Nice.
I won't show it to you or I won't hand it to you because it might be stanky.
It's definitely got some foot on it.
It's got about a year's worth of foot on it, is what it does. And it clacks around inside my boot or inside my tennis shoe, and I feel it, and sometimes it's annoying. And I think about it, and then I'm like, I'm not sure exactly what it's doing, but it's taking me out of self.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm thinking about myself. It's my foot.
Have you ever thought about it being annoying and removing it?
Often.
Yeah.
Especially when it gets on top of my foot,
Oh,
inside
God.
my boot. Then I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I'm like, well, somebody told me that it's helpful with mindfulness. And then I watched a podcast by a man named Michael Singer, and he's a good one. And Michael Singer talked about practicing mindfulness with coins, with a talisman, with something of meaning, and to put it in your right pocket. And every 15 minutes, change pockets. Put it in the left pocket. And then in 15 minutes, put it in the right pocket. And in 15 minutes, put it in the left pocket. And just go throughout the day like that. The frequency of 15 minutes, I'm remembering that, and sometimes I remember incorrectly. But he said that through that practice, it creates mindfulness. And I'm not certain what it does, but when I don't have the coin in my shoe, I miss it.
Yeah, I can see that after, it being there for a while and then it's not, you're like, where's my coin?
Yeah. So it's, and since it's a talisman, since it has meaning to me, I know it's there. It's always there. And sometimes it's by my toes and sometimes it's by my heel. And if it's under my heel, I can feel it. If it's under my toes, sometimes, as a nervous tick, sometimes I squish my toes inside my shoes. Yeah. And so I'll feel it. And I believe that brings some type of comfort.
Do you ever switch shoes?
I have. And it's super annoying in my right shoe. Yeah. So then I put it back in my left. It's almost always in my left shoe. Now, why the left? I'm not sure. But he said, this guy Michael Singer, he said the practice of the coin or the talisman in your pocket, switching back and forth, and then it was presented to me from a friend to try it in my shoe, and I've been doing that close to a year, I think. I couldn't really tell you why, but when I don't do it,
it's not right. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm missing something.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Not with the coin in my shoe, but definitely, I am so attached to, my vape. Mm-hmm. I can't leave the house without it. And if I do, I immediately know. Mm-hmm. I immediately know. I get to my car, and then the first thing that I want to do after I start my car and put my phone on the radio, put my seatbelt on, hit my vape. Mm-hmm. So I'm searching. If it's not there, I got to go back inside and get it. Because I'd be damned if I'm going to the gas station 3 minutes down the road without my vape,
Yep. It's rituals.
Yeah.
We have these. And if I'm to call it what I believe it is, and I exhibit this behavior myself, are addictive rituals. With tobacco, with nicotine, with caffeine, with other addictive types of things. I can fool myself very easily into thinking that coffee tastes awesome. No, it doesn't. It tastes like crap.
It does taste like shit.
But I've fooled myself into enjoying it.
I'm sorry. Am I supposed to be not cussing?
You can just speak freely.
Yeah, right.
But you're cool. And that coffee analogy where it tastes awful, but yet I will drink it. I can apply that to many of my addictive behaviors, from consuming, products that taste awful, feel awful, burn, whether it's smoking or drinking or chewing or, whatever. I fool myself, right? I trick myself. I play a trick on me, thinking that this is what I desire. when in reality, if I think about it objectively, if I stand back and say, well, I'm drinking a cup of coffee right now, this very minute, and it tastes like coffee, like black coffee. And that's how I drink it, right? I don't put anything in there because I don't want it to be too delicious, because I know I shouldn't drink too much of it, because I will. And I know it tastes like crap, and it makes my mouth taste like crap, and yet I still drink it.
Yeah, I keep a toothbrush and mouthwash in my desk.
Smart.
Yeah. I'm actually not even sure that it serves any purpose to me, coffee. I get a cup of coffee on my way to work. I get a cup of coffee. I have a French press in my office I use daily. And it's like, I'm not even really sure if it's doing anything for me other than making me shake. I know that I don't feel any different. I know that if I drank water instead, I would probably feel more energized. I might not feel as, like as gratified as if I drank a cup of coffee, but I know that the water would be more beneficial. I still drink the coffee. And if I don't drink the coffee, I'm not myself. So
Addictive behaviors are incredible. I love how you said, I am not myself. Without my fix, without my caffeine fix, I will become somebody else, somebody who I do not appreciate, who I don't like how it feels, so I'll get well.
Yeah.
And I'll drink my caffeine.
Absurd.
Absolutely. And yet it's socially acceptable.
Yeah.
Therein lies the rub. Is it socially acceptable? It's sold in every grocery store, in every counter, every convenience store, or the gas station. You can stop and get your fix anytime. And because it's socially acceptable, we overlook it.
People drink coffee all day long.
I have heard, and choose to believe, the most addictive substance is sugar.
I also believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also a cause for inflammation, headaches, with or without sugar. If you have sugar a lot and then you go without sugar, it causes headaches.
Withdrawal.
If you do the opposite, if you're not a big sugar eater or drinker, and then you consume a lot of sugar, it'll give you a headache. So it's like overdose and withdrawal. You get the same effect.
I'll go on a sugar run. If I go home, there's a huge box of Halloween candy in the breezeway, because where I'm staying, we didn't get a single trick-or-treater. Got like $50 worth of candy,
A lot of
chocolates.
people did that.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I got all this candy sitting in the breezeway, and if I have one, I'll have 30. I'll go on a sugar run until I pass out or puke, one or the other.
Yeah. I do the same thing. Like, I'll consume an entire box of something.
Yep.
Just because I had one. And I'm like, oh, I like the way that felt in my mouth. Not even really the taste, just the texture. I'm like eating all of them. Like my wife the other day, she bought a bag of animal crackers, and I was like, oh, those look good. And she's like, you better get your own. Because she knew I would eat the whole thing.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
It's edit button. It's okay.
Yeah, okay.
I got one of those. I got an edit button.
Good.
And I'm a big boy. I know swear words. It's okay.
I know so many swear words.
I can make myself blush. That's how many I've learned. You brought something else up that is near and dear to my heart, and it has become one of the main solutions to everything at all times, everywhere, no matter what. You talked about being present. And so many things have been presented to me on this subject, and I've digested and will attempt to regurgitate. And this is an open conversation. So it's just something that has been very, very useful, very difficult, but very useful. And it's living in the now, right? And there's lots of videos about it. There's lots of YouTubes about it. It's just living in the now, living in the right now, living in the moment. There's songs about it, all these things. I didn't really understand any of that crap. I'd hear it and be like, oh, what are they talking about? It didn't make any sense. And then I learned that anxiety is defined or was presented to me as living in the future.
Keep going. I'm gonna Google something that I'm gonna share with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And depression is living in the past, right? And so it's come to me that living in the future is all pretend. It's all made up. It doesn't exist. It's a non-reality. They're figments of my imagination. That's the future. It doesn't exist. The past, being depression, is all memory, right? I have upsetting memories that I will go back and relive, or relive the feelings that surround them. That it's all, and actually I can tie that to anxiety. Fear of the future is based in memory. I have bad memories of the past, so I fear those happening again in the future, and then that becomes perception as well. I perceive that these negative things will happen again, so therefore I fear the future. I fear the past, or I lament the past in a depressive manner because of the things that happened, and they did happen. These things happened, and then I put my perspective on them. Well, this thing that happened is bad, right? So I put my is bad on there. That's my free will. It was presented so simply to me that a neighbor moves in next door, right? That's the action. The reality, the fact, is a neighbor moved in next door. Then I put my distortion on it. My free will on it is the description, right? So a mean neighbor moved in next door. So there's my free will run riot. A mean neighbor moved in next door. Somebody else, my sister, may say, a really nice neighbor moved in next door.
Yeah.
And that's
like,
her
I don't get
perception.
that vibe.
Right. But the fact is
Someone
that a
moved
neighbor
in.
moved in next
Yeah.
door. Not mean nor nice. It's my descriptor. I'm taking control of the scenario. I'm playing, the manipulator in that scenario because I'm saying what that means. I don't know if that's coming across.
No, I get. Yeah.
That's my free will, is saying that situation is good or bad. That's my descriptor, where I could, the scenario, the situation, the neighbor just is. It just is. And so my memory is filled with all of these events that I believe are traumatic, that are awful, that are bad. And yes, some of them should not have happened. Some of those shouldn't exist. Terrible things happen. But how I choose to look at it today, in the now, actually changes my past. Everything was fearful. Everything was a big chaotic mess in my memory because of events that happened, right?
Yeah.
And I spent a lifetime trying to drown those out. When in reality, I learned how to change my perspective, put on a different set of glasses with clearer lens. I'm tired of looking through shitty lenses.
Speaking of that, yeah.
I got to do that.
How did you know?
And if I change my perspective, my descriptor, it's not a mean neighbor. It's just a neighbor.
Yeah.
I take my piece out of it, the mean piece out of it. Now it's just a neighbor. So yes, these events happened. How can I really, if I had to get down to the nuts and bolts of it, how do I forgive everybody that was involved in all those scenarios?
Yeah.
And if I can figure out how to forgive those people that were involved in them, I can then forgive myself. And that changes the now. Because I'm no longer afraid of that history. I can go back in time and live I can right now, in this moment, go back in time and be a 2-year-old boy.
Oh, quickly.
Yeah. If I get angry enough, if I get upset enough, I'll make a really mean face. My voice will get really loud. I'll start breaking stuff. I'll stomp around, and I will try to be big and mean and terrible and awful so that I don't have to be afraid of you.
Yes.
So I'm a 2-year-old on the inside.
Yeah.
Until I love that little 2-year-old and tell them it's okay, that it's okay to forgive. It's okay to forgive everybody for everything they've ever done. Thereby receiving forgiveness and learning that I don't need to act that way anymore. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And that improves the now. If I can merely stay right here, right now, and just do my best right now, then everything gets a little bit better. Right? Even all the stuff happened in the past, all my anxieties about the future. If I simply suit up and show up and do my best now, and if the future is nothing more than a sequence of right nows, then I'm actually affecting the future. That's a form of time travel. If I do my best now, I'm affecting the future.
It makes sense.
It does for me.
Just like if you do horrible, nasty, horrible things right now, you're going to pay consequences.
You're affecting your future.
Affecting your future.
I think that's what they mean when they say self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes. I that's exactly my take on it. I think that's exactly what it means. So have you ever heard of The West Memphis Three.
No, teach me.
Okay, so there was this situation in West Memphis, which is in, I think, Arkansas. And it was back in like 92 or 93. So these 3 6-year-old boys were murdered. And there were these other 3 boys that were like 16, 17, and 18. And they were all 3 accused of these horrible murders because they listened to Metallica, because they wore pentagrams on their shirts, because they talked about things that existed that are other than Christianity. It's a big Christian town. So these 3 kids were tried and convicted of first-degree murder, 3 counts of first-degree murder. So one of the guys they were then about 18 years later, I think, 18 or 20 years later, they were retried and they were let go from prison. So one of the guys' name is Damien Eccles. So he said this quote during an interview. He said, "The thing I like most about time is that it's not real. It's all in your head. Sure, it's a useful trick if you want to meet someone at a specific place in the universe to have tea or coffee, but that's all it is a trick. There's no such thing as the past. It exists only in your memory. There's no such thing as the future. It exists only in your imagination. If our watches were truly accurate, the only thing that they would ever read is now." Yeah.
That is brilliant.
Yeah,
I love it.
for sure. He does a lot of kind of like TED Talk kind of things. But they're a little different. But he's a good guy, honestly. I mean, very, very interesting person. Also very wise.
Yeah.
Spent 18 years of his life in prison for, murders that he did not commit.
Sounds like, just from that quote that you gave me, it sounds like he learned how to forgive.
Oh yeah. So there's actually 3 documentaries definitely worth watching. So the first one they're investigating the murders. The second one they're investigating the trial, and then the third one is about them getting released from prison. So HBO followed them for 20 years or whatever.
Wow.
So it's definitely worth watching. And you see, like, this guy in particular, you see him, like, as he gets older, he just, like, starts making different choices. He starts, he's just developing into a bright human being. And it's just sad that you have to see it you have to watch it happen behind bars. But it's a very good watch if you ever have time to watch it. It's called The West Memphis 3.
The West Memphis 3. That's worth a watch myself.
Yes.
The
I almost forgot we were recording for a second.
What's that?
I almost forgot we were recording for a second.
That's the coolest thing ever, man.
It did melt away.
It does. That's when magic happens, man. We start sharing and all the stuff just melts away because we're just 2 dudes having some coffee and talking about what works for us. And so the format is anonymous, specifically so that I can feel free to just discuss whatever.
Yeah. I don't mind if you use my name.
Okay.
I don't have to be anonymous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
if it comes up and that's your decision to make.
I said it on record.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
here we go.
Cool, man. Okay, so this gentleman that you're speaking of, who has potentially learned how to forgive, and therefore has then been presented to him that time is irrelevant. Time, actually, the tick-tocks of a clock and the days on a calendar are merely for our third-dimensional existence. That it's been presented that time folds on itself. That it's and how that happens for me, the time travel that happens for me is memory-based and future anxiety-based. That future, he called it imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So it's memory-based and imagination-based. We time travel everywhere and never live in the now. And he has found that secret. He's unlocked that door, has discovered that secret of to relieve everything that's ever bothered me is to simply be here now, do my best now, learn what I can now. When I'm called to rest, I rest. When I'm called to work, I work. Right? It's when somebody presents themselves to me and has a beautiful share, like you just shared with me, or somebody contacts me and says, "Hey, I'm having some issues. Can you help me?" Well, how may I be of service today? How may I serve you today? That's one of the keys of this new life is service, right? Helping others, paying forward what we've learned, and we may have a shared past in terms of perceived tragedy, right? Traumatic events. And it has been presented to me that trauma is not the event itself, it's what happens to us as a result of the event. So my earliest event, there have been multiple, but my earliest event happened in early childhood, and I learned to live waiting for the other shoe to drop. My entire life was spent waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And that's a form of fear. It's a form of depression. They call it dysthymic disorder. I believe that's what it's called. But if it has a name, I'm not the only one.
Yeah, you're
right?
not. You're definitely not the first.
So if my entire life was built on a foundation of fear, and every structure that I built was on a foundation of fear, and then I learned that I don't need to live in fear, what does that mean for all those structures? How would I know? More prevalent question. If everything I've ever done was built on a foundation of fear, how would I know that I have a foundation of fear?
That is a very profound question.
How would I know?
Yeah.
It would take somebody in a scenario like this to show me there's another way. In my own personal experience, I tried everything that I knew how to do to be happy. Everything that I could muster to have a glad heart, to feel light and easy. And nothing I did worked. It just kept on digging a deeper and deeper hole, whether that's physical debt, mental debt, spiritual debt. I just kept digging a deeper hole until I finally was sitting in the bottom of this hole, desperate.
Bankrupt.
Exactly.
Yes.
In all ways bankrupt, and more in all ways bankrupt.
Definitely not just financially.
And it was financial. I was losing the house. I lost my wife and child. Everything about I was trying everything I could possibly do, and I was being totally self-reliant. I can do this. I can figure this out. Me and my dogs. I got 2 dogs. Me and my boys, we can figure this out. And the epiphany came that I only know what I know. And if I only know what I know, how am I going to figure my way out of this? Because everything that I know got me into it.
Yes.
I only know what I know. And I don't know what I don't know,
And I only know how to get into this hole. I don't know how to get out of it.
So how do we get out?
Help.
Ooh, that's a dirty word.
Not to me. But that's my job.
Yeah, man. Tell me about that.
About my job?
Tell me about help.
So it's like the man in the hole. Have you ever heard that story?
Tell me.
So there's a man, he's down in a hole and he can't get out. There's no ladder, there's no rope, there's nothing, and I'm totally going to butcher the story, by the way.
Go ahead.
So I'm just going to touch on like the key points where, there's no way to get out of this hole. So a priest walks by and the guy's like, "Hey, help me out of this hole." And, the priest says a prayer, help this man out of this hole. He's still in the hole. He didn't just miraculously, dissolve and then go up to the top of the hole. So, a couple other guys walk by and they're like trying to reach down, help him out. They can't get him out. The guy's jumping and he's trying to reach for somebody's hand or for a root or something, and he can't get out. So an recovering alcoholic walks by and he jumps down into the hole with him. And he's like, "What the hell are you doing, man? Like, you're supposed to be helping me out." And he's like, "Chill out. I've been here before, and I know how to get out.
Yeah.
So let me help you."
Yeah.
And then, so I don't know how they get out, but they get out.
You described in broad strokes my experience. where I was physically, mentally, worldly bankrupt. And there came a point in time, right? This event happened where it was about 3 or 4 in the morning, and I finally realized that I only know what I know, and that I need someone else. I need direction. I need suggestions. I need guidance, because I only know what I know. How am I going to fix this if I only know what I know?
Yeah.
And even all my Googlings, Google it, how do I do this? How do I stop this? How can I make this work? And I still only know what I know.
You know, you can search the Reddit posts, you can search the forums, you can search whatever. And from my experience, someone can spell it out for me, and I still don't understand until I find the solution on my own.
Thank you. So 3 or 4 in the morning, I finally admitted defeat. And it was the most freeing thing. I never in my life would I ever admit defeat. It wasn't going to happen. I am not going to admit that I'm powerless. I am not going to do that. I always have something trick up my sleeve. I had exhausted every single trick. And it was about 3 or 4 in the morning, I started making phone calls. My first phone call was to 911. I felt this overwhelming doom and desperation, this loneliness that I had never felt in my entire life, and I felt that my life was about to end. So what do? If I'm in an emergency situation and my life's going to end, what do? I called 911. Help me, I need help. Well, they talked to me for a little bit, found out, they determined that wasn't their kind of emergency, so they ended the call, right? But I wasn't done. I still had this overwhelming urge that I didn't know what to do next. And I kept smiling and dialing until I got to somebody who was willing to show up at my door and say, okay, I'm going to go with you to help you find people that know what to do. And they took me to a place where I met someone who was the living example of how to get out of the pit. And the reason was that I could see it. I could see it in this person, and that's because they had also been in the pit. And somebody had jumped down in the pit to help them out.
Yeah.
And this man jumped down in the pit and helped me out. And I liken it to a mountain, if I may share this story with you.
For sure.
Ever heard of Mount Everest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's this huge mountain, and people want to just go climb it because it's there, right? It's ridiculous. And people summit it and put their flags on the top and all these things. Well, what we don't hear about so much are all the dead bodies. The dead, frozen bodies, wind-torn and sunburnt, that are encapsulated on the side of that mountain that will never come off that mountain. They'll never come down because it's far too dangerous to go get them, right?
Yeah.
And that describes most of my life, trying to figure it out on my own. Knowing what I know, how am I going to climb that mountain? I've not been through mountain climbing school. I've never been through altitude, oxygen deprivation training. I don't know how to use the climbing equipment that is required to get to the top of Mount Everest. So I am one of those dead, sunburned, wind-torn bodies that are encapsulated on the side of that mountain forever until I utilize this. There's an entire industry built around the base of Mount Everest, and they're called mountain guides. And you can hire one of these dudes to show you the way to the top of the mountain. Now, they won't carry your crap for you. You got your own rucksack full of stuff.
Yeah.
But they're going to say, hey, step where I step, clip in where I clip in. I'll show you the way to the top. Doesn't guarantee that you're going to make it, but I'll show you the way to the top.
Yeah.
That's my experience. As I met this dude who was living free, who was living happy, right? Still is. And he said, clip in where I clip in, step where I step, I'll show you the way to the top. You want to bring all that crap? You got a rucksack with 1,000 pounds of BS in it? You want to bring it with you? Fine, load it up, let's go. And every time we stopped at this plateau, there's these, on the way to the top of Mount Everest, I think there's like 6 or 8, I don't know what to call them, way stations, wellness stations, there's breakpoints, right? There's these plateaus where you get reacclimated to the altitude, they've got medical care, there's food, there's tents, there's warmth so that you can rest. And if I'm to liken it to Mount Everest, my guide, along the way, we'd stop at one of these plateaus and he'd say, okay, let's rest here for a little while. How's the view? Oh, well, we're up 5,000 feet. The view's much better than it was down there. All right. You know, the climb's going to get a little bit more. Why don't you drop off some of that crap that you don't need out of that backpack? So so he got me this far. He must know what he's doing. So I'd take some crap out of my bag and I'd leave it there. They'll know what to do with it. Leave it here. Just leave it. They'll know what to do with it. And we go up another 5,000 feet to the next plateau, and he'd say, hey, how's the view over here? I'm like, yeah, this view's much better. Why is it better? Well, because we're 5,000 feet higher. I can see more. And I'm looking up, and the mountain still goes into the clouds. I can't see the top. But the view is much better at 5,000 feet higher than I was before, because now we're at 10,000 feet. He says, hey, we're about to go up even further. Why don't you drop off some of that crap you're carrying? Leave it here. They'll know what to do with it. So I drop off some of the crap, and we'd buckle up, and he'd say, step where I step, clip in where I clip in, and we climb another 5,000 feet. How's the view from up here? Whoa, it's beautiful. This is freaking gorgeous, man. But I can't see the top of the mountain. Why am I going to keep climbing? I can't even see. Are we ever going to reach the top of the mountain? So yeah, one day we'll get there. But in the meantime, how's this view? You want to see something cool? Follow me another 5,000 feet. Drop off some of your crap. You don't need it. Step where I step, clip in where I clip in.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
I'd never heard that analogy before, and I like that. Reminds me of my sponsorship. Like, my relationship with my sponsor was basically the exact same way.
Yeah.
But I was kind of a dick. I was a dick a lot of the time.
We are that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has been very freeing to be taken up this mountain. And the coolest part about this is the realization, once we got to a certain point, I mean, there's a lifetime of mountain to climb. There's a lifetime of learning. That's the biggest lesson, is that to summit the mountain, there's another plane up there. There's something else. When I get to put my flag at the top of the mountain, in the pictures, if you Google the top of Mount Everest, there's flags everywhere.
Yeah.
That tells me right there, if all those people with all those flags can make it to the top, guess what? So can I. Yeah, brother. Yeah.
But given my current physical health shape, I would probably be one of those dead bodies.
So, figuratively, right? If we're going to actually climb Mount Everest, you and me both, brother, we got some training to do.
For sure.
But in life, so if we use this metaphor, right? In life, if I want to get happy and get well, you do get it. But for everybody who's listening, right? If we want to get better, if we want to get well, and we want to climb another 5,000 feet because the view is better up there, then what do I need to do? What training do I need? What knowledge would I need to acquire? What climbing equipment do I need to familiarize myself with to get the next 5,000 feet?
Yeah.
Did you know there are ropes and ladders and steps and ice bridges on the way up the top of Mount Everest?
I did not.
It's almost like somebody has already traveled that path. It's almost like the path is laid out before us, man.
Yeah. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
That is a great analogy, because we've got the 12 steps, we've got the 12 traditions, we've got the book. And the suggestions in the book are the path that someone has walked before. Dude, you're onto something here.
They tell us that it's not guaranteed. Just like if you hire a mountain guide, it's not guaranteed you get to the summit.
Yeah.
You could die on the side of the mountain, and a lot of people do. Storms come, things happen, whatever.
You fall back down a few thousand feet.
Yeah. Maybe we start over. Maybe we get helivaced off the side of the mountain, and then we start over. This was very important for me to learn that in the industry, and this may be a question that comes up, is in the industry of mountain guides to climb Mount Everest, you hire a mountain guide and you pay them money. Whatever their form of monetary, payment is, you're paying them. And in this new life, I have found out that I'm not paying my dude money to show me to the top of this new life, to show me the way up. It's not a monetary thing. I pay him with work. So he shows me the way to the top of the mountain. I do the work, he shows me. I don't do the work, he doesn't show me. Because if I'm not doing the work to climb, how is he going to show me the next steps? That's just like when I'm showing somebody up to the top of the mountain. You do the work. You do the work, I'll show you the way. You don't do the work, I don't show you the way.
You still show up.
Suit up, show up, do the best I can. And some days my best is just not screwing up. Well, no, that's not true, because I'll screw up even on my best days. Some days, if I'm to be completely blunt and open, some days the only thing I do right is not drink. Some days the only thing I do right is not call myself a piece of crap. Some days that's the only thing I don't do right. Some days the best thing I feel like I can do is stay isolated. I'm an isolation, master. I'm an extreme isolationist. When I'm feeling low, I'll divorce myself from everybody and everything and just go hide.
Yeah.
It's hard for me because I feel comfortable in that arena. I feel very comfortable by myself with my 2 dogs, right?
Oh, for sure.
And I fool myself into thinking that I'm okay.
Wow, that is profound. Yeah, I mean that kind of reminds me of what I was talking about earlier on. When I go home, because like when I'm at work, I have to be everything for everyone else. I have to give so much of myself, and then when I get home, I don't have much of myself left to give to my wife, to give to my family. So I do what makes me feel comfortable, and that's play video games. That's because I don't have to put a lot of investment into a video game. I've played it before. I know how to play it, so I just play it. You know what I mean? So when I talked earlier about choosing romance, about choosing love, that's a very mindful decision. It's a very powerful decision that is takes a lot of brain power. So it's really hard sometimes when I get home from work and I've had a long day at the office. Things just didn't go my way, or they didn't go right. I'm not feeling myself. And then I get home and I don't like. I just want to go play the video game. Not that I don't love my wife. Not that I don't love spending time with my wife, because I do. She's amazing. She's a beautiful soul, and I love her to death. But it's really hard for me sometimes to choose love.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to sometimes when I'm at that pivotal point to choose love. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because I want to go be comfortable.
We want to plug in,
Yeah.
let the matrix take over.
Yes.
Right? I totally get that, man.
Yes. I want to go be in my comfort zone where I know that I'm not going to fail, for one, but I'm also not growing. And we're not growing.
Yep.
Her and I are not growing together.
I do the same thing with movies. I'm a movie buff. I like to watch movies. I like to lose myself in the electronic goodness that is a show of somebody else. I could just sit there and eat my snacks. And just let the electronics take over. Let it wash over me. I've made some adjustments to my movie watching habit, right? And that is to find movies that can help me grow, that will inspire thought. I was watching one. It was a Marvel movie. It was an X-Men movie. Just yesterday, it was Rise of the Phoenix. So that title caught my eye. So I've watched it before, but now I'm watching these things through a new set of eyes, and I'm hearing it through a new set of ears. So I watched this movie, and one of the very first scenes, there's a little girl, and her family dies as a result of something that she does. And she's got tremendous guilt and fear, and she's very poised as a little girl. But she's sitting with this man who says, "I have a solution. I can help you. I can help you learn how to harness your powers and use them for good. You have this gift." And she says, "It's not a gift, it's a curse." And he says the following, which is, I believe, the entire reason why I ended up clicking on this movie. He says, "Here, take this pen. No, in fact, have this pen. It's now yours." He says, "That is a gift. What are you going to do with it? You can draw a beautiful picture, or you can use the point of that pen to stab somebody's eyes out. It's still just a pen, a gift. So what will you do with your gift?"
That's, wow.
Yeah. What will I do with my gift? I've been given a gift. You, my friend, have a gift. It's just, what do we do with it?
Yeah.
Do we draw a beautiful picture? or do we stab somebody's eyes out? So to me, the gift is, in that analogy, in that story, the gift is the pen. The calling is then, am I an artist? Am I a poet? Am I a songwriter? Or, I don't know,
I
an
a
eyeball
murderer?
murderer?
Yeah. Because, sometimes sometimes that's a tough choice, you know what I mean?
So how can we utilize our escapes for good? It's unknown. It's to experiment, to learn, and to forgive ourselves. If I'm going to unplug and watch a movie, maybe instead of watching 3 movies, I'll watch 1. It's up to experimentation. I don't know. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm just sitting here watching my movies, right?
Yeah, well, so I will watch 3 movies in a row.
Sure. Me too.
I'm a huge anime guy, you know what I mean? So I love watching anime. So like I'll just binge all day. Or I'll spend 8 hours on the video game. It's very easy for me to let it get out of control. Yeah.
Forgiveness of self. I need to learn how to forgive everybody for everything they've ever done, thereby learning how to forgive myself. And I've been taught, this great writer who wrote a set of instructions for life, and in this writing he said, if I learn to forgive, seek to forgive, and then I'll be forgiven. Learn how to love, and then I will be loved. Seek to understand, then I'll be understood.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite of everything I've ever thought. I've always thought, gimme, and then whatever's left. Turns out, and I'm experiencing this, give, then I will receive. I'm like, so if I want friends, I must learn to be a friend. If I desire forgiveness, I must learn to forgive. If I want to be loved, I must learn to love, and what love means. And that brings me to another study, because I used to think love meant how my body parts fit together with somebody else's, right? This message came that, honestly, I must unselfishly love to be pure. So unselfish love became the study point. How do I unselfishly love? How do I unselfishly love? How do I give? How do I do? How do I love with no expectation of return? Therein lies the study. Forgive, and then I'll be forgiven. Love, and then I'll be loved. Be a friend, and then I'll have friends. How do I give? How do I love? How do I do? How do I serve with no expectation of return? And that becomes the life study. That's the next step, the next clip on the mountain, the next 5,000 feet.
What just happened?
A natural pause.
Then, yeah. I think I'm going to have to probably bounce out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
no,
your
thanks
time.
for having me.
Yeah.
This was interesting. This was fun.
We've been at this almost an hour, so
Yeah.
it's good. This project has taken on a life of itself, of its own, and I have no idea what it's going to become. What we share potentially could reach those who were before unreachable. I was unreachable.
And that's my plan with my job, actually.
Yeah, man.
You know, if I can just help one person, then my work is accomplished. Obviously, I aim to help many, many more. But if it only happens to be one, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. One at a time, one day at a time, one person at a time, one step at a time, one clip at a time. One.
Yeah.
Just one. Can I only do one thing? If I just do one thing today right, one thing right today. There's going back to the very first episode that's been published, one of the pilot episodes of this series, it talks about Michael Singer and a podcast that he does is doing the real work to let go. And I'll share this story with you briefly because I know you are ready to go. I'm in a tug of war. I got this big, thick gauge rope. I'm in a tug of war with an entire football team. I mean, they're padded up. They got cleats on, the whole bit. And I'm wrapping this rope around my hand. I'm wrapping it around my waist. I'm digging my heels in. I'm trying my best. Every tug of war skill that I have, I'm implementing. But there's an entire football team on the other side of this rope, and they're dragging me all over the field, and I'm flipping around and falling on my face and just getting dragged through the mud. And then Yoda shows up, and he says, let go. What are you talking about? I'm in a tug of war with an entire football team. They're dragging me all over the place. What do you mean, let go? He says, look down at your hands. He says, loosen your grip. Now let go. And I cease to be drug around by anybody or anything, including what I perceive as good. Because good things drag me around too.
Yes.
And that I really needed that visual of Yoda showing up and telling me to let go. And then I look down at my hands and I let go of the rope. And the rope slips out of my hands. And I'm left not knowing what to do because I'm not fighting anymore. And that's the study of this new life, is learning, what do I do next? Because I'm not fighting anymore. And that's weird. It feels funny to not be fighting.
Yeah. Feels foreign.
So if I had to sum up all these 12-step programs in 2 words, those 2 words are let go. Let go of the outcome, let go of the relationship, let go of the job. Doesn't mean quit. It just means let go of the outcomes. Anything that I'm struggling with, anything that I'm tense about, anything that I'm fighting with, how a client may receive you. Let go of the outcome. Just let go. And it will be whatever it's going to be. If my job here is to merely plant seeds, then they'll get planted. Yeah. Whether I struggle or not, they'll get planted.
Let go.
Let go. And I don't perceive happiness without the struggle, because all I've ever known was the struggle. Turns out there's a different kind of happiness that comes with peace. And it feels weird. Thank you for coming. Closing questions. What is your gift?
My gift? Love.
What is your calling?
Love.
Right on, brother. Those are 2 of the best things I've ever heard. Thank you for your time, man.
Of course.
Thank you. Are you a hugger?
I am.
All right, brother. Appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, so after you turn that off, I'll